Hi, everyone. Welcome to Real Beans. Today is going to be a slightly different episode because I'm going to be going off script, and I'm going to talk to you today about two animated films for Easter. One is called The Easter Bunny Is Coming to Town by the powerhouse troupe that gave us Frosty the Snowman, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the Rankin and Bass team. And the other one is Charles Schulz's It's the Easter Beagle, Charlie Brown, which many of you may know that title. Charlie Brown has been around for a long time. We've had specials for Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, you name the season. They've probably done an episode for it. And It's the Easter Beagle, Charlie Brown is one of the more underrated films and forgotten ones usually, because there's not really Easter traditions anymore in terms of TV viewing as there were back in the day, where you'd have a whole weekend of just some sort of holiday specials that would come 24/7 for the week. And then to round it all off, I decided to go with a slightly more bright coffee from Stumptown. And you've heard Stumptown here on the podcast before. They're a really good coffee company, and they're very precise with their single origin blend. And this is a single origin called Ethiopian GUJI. And this is a perfect pairing because, like the two Easter films that we're going to be discussing, there is a tea-like floral, sweet honey, and citrus flavor that goes along with this light and elegant drink. It is not a dark roast. It's a very light roast. And when I was tasting it, I had notes of some nectarine and some jasmine, and it was a very light, refreshing feel. And I usually want a little bit more of a bite, but in this respect, I really enjoyed the light texture and feel as I was drinking it, and it worked really well in my drip machine. But probably the better option is going to be the pour over method, which you put the filter in, then the grounds, then you take the hot boiling water at about 212 degrees, you start the bloom, and then you let the water run and do its course until the end, and then you have a lovely, bright, light cup of coffee. Now, Ethiopia GUJI, which is what I drank from Stumptown, is a little trickier to find, but I found mine at the grocery store, at Pavilions. It was also available at Bristol Farms. You might also find it available at Target, and online on Amazon.com, of course. But oh, what a taste that was. I don't think I've tried it before. I've seen it on the shelves, but this was the first time I thought, pairing with this more light and bright, festive films that we're going to be talking about, this I thought would be a great opportunity to taste it. It's one of the more expensive coffees on the market, of course, but I thought, what the heck, for the podcast, I'm going to go ahead and try it. And I'm glad I did, because it definitely has a nice finish on the tongue. And if you're looking for a coffee that is not going to be too overpowering, then this is going to be the one to choose. This style, like other Ethiopian blends, are lighter and medium to light bodied, and easy to use in the drip machine. So if you've got a regular coffee maker at home, this is going to be perfect. You can get the grounds already pre-grounded, or you can make it yourself with your own coffee grinder at home, whatever you find easiest to do. Just a little bit of tidbits on Stumptown. Stumptown was founded in 1999 in Portland, Oregon. They were pioneers of the direct trade as opposed to just fair trade. Direct trade is actually contacting and being in touch with the producers of the coffee directly at the coffee farms. Now, because of this, you pay a higher price, but the quality is so much better. Over 90% of the coffee that you see on the shelf from them is going to be direct trade relationships. Now, I'll explain a little bit about single origin in case you're not familiar with it. I've talked on this podcast before about blends where they take different types of coffee beans and put them all together in a sort of mishmash, but that comes together like a puzzle, makes something beautiful out of a multitude of beans, where a single origin, as the name suggests, is just one place of terroir, like the soil, the climate, the elevation. They all come from one specific place, and in this case, Ethiopia. Stumptown also has a multitude of Ethiopian single origin blends. One is called Mordekafe, Suke Kuto, and GUJI, which is the one I drank. Okay, now why does this pairing work? As I mentioned before, it's light and bright. And so with the Peanut special, we have Vince Guaraldi's jazz score, which is playful, bright, light, easy to listen to. And then with the Rankin Bass specials, we have the pastel colors and springtime innocence. All of that coming together with the Ethiopian coffee makes it a perfect pairing. As I had mentioned before, it's not heavy, it's not deep and dark. So it has a little bit more of a joyful, uplifting feel like Easter candy is sometimes. Also, the floral notes with springtime flowers add a nice touch with the coffee. Okay, and with your nice cup of coffee, now that you understand the backstory of Stumptown's Ethiopian blend, I think it's time to start diving into the two films that I have watched for this episode. We'll start off with, because it was my sort of least favorite of the two, The Easter Bunny Is Comin to Town. This arrived in 1977. It's basically a direct copy of the film, which I think is much more superior, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, complete with Fred Astaire being the mailman like he was in the first episode. And now he's on a train and discussing with the audience about the origins of the Easter Bunny. This was Rankin and Bass's third and final Easter special. This comes after Here Comes Peter Cottontail in 1971 and The First Easter Rabbit in 1976. All you can find on YouTube, which is where I watched this one, because it's a little bit trickier to come by unless you've got the big box set on Blu-ray of the Rankin and Bass specials. But as I said, this one's not as well known as the ones from the 60s that we all grew up on with Rudolph and Santa Claus Coming to Town, The Little Drummer Boy, and Frosty the Snowman. This is kind of a sequel, you could say. Basically, it is the characters from the original Santa Claus is Coming to Town have now been put into different characters for the Easter Bunny. For example, Sonny the Bunny is Kris Kringle. The Kidville Kids are the Kringles. Gadzooks the Bear is the Winter Warlock, and so on. This is kind of, I felt a little bit more kiddie friendly than some of the original ones, because I often felt that with the ones from the 60s and perhaps the early 70s, there was a little bit more for the adults in terms of the storyline. It didn't talk down to the kids. And in this version, which is what I kind of was annoying me about it, was I felt like they were just sort of like Gucci goo on the kids and just treating them not as serious as the older films did. And so that kind of made me feel a little bit like, well, okay, fine. And also in this one, we have a villain named Aunt Lily Longtooth, who is sort of this uppity aunt to the king of this town. And she just wants everything to be gray, gloomy, only eat lima beans, nothing else, no colors, no pastels, no fun, excitement. And the king is a kid and he wants to have fun and have all this interesting candies and food, but nope, Aunt Lily is a nope on that. And so she becomes the main villain. She's kind of more crusty and kind of over the top funny, being all uppity, as opposed to Winter Warlock in the Santa Claus is Coming to Town films. He starts off being really evil looking and scary for kids at the time. And even I'll go so far as back as Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, where you have the abominable snow monster, who's also very scary for children. But here, Aunt Lily is sort of just a regular person, not really scary. The other character who is kind of an evil person is the Gadzooks, the bear. And just like Aunt Lily, he's not as scary. He's more comic relief than anything else. He does turn into like a nice bear after he's given some Easter clothes from the Easter Bunny. But overall, he's a minor character who isn't very scary. Definitely not in the same league as Winter Warlock was. Also, with this one, there's no clear understanding about the villain's motivation. Why does she want everything to be gray? Why is she treating her nephew, who's the king, with such dismay? She just ignores what he wants, and all she wants is what she wants. But it's not really clear as to the motive behind it, as opposed to in Santa Claus is Coming to Town, you had the Baron who steps on a toy and hurts his leg, and he then decrees that there's no more toy makers allowed and no more toys for the children because of this nonsense that he had to face. Um, as simple as that is, it's actually his motivation. There's something behind it, where there's nothing really going for that with Aunt Lily. So there are weak stakes involved. Also, the town that's run by the orphans, known as Kidville, isn't really explained either. So you have this sort of little town where all the kids run everything. There's a kid mayor, the kid baker, the kid doctor. And when Sonny the Bunny comes to town, he takes up refuge there, and they welcome him with open arms. But it's kind of silly. Kidville with kids only, fine for the kids, and for this type of film, since it wasn't really going for anything underneath. Also, Rankin and Bass is known for their stop motion animation. You see that in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the little drummer boy, and so on. But here it's more smooth stop motion animation. You've seen that they've grown throughout the years, and so it's much nicer to look at. And it's also technically better in 1977, so there's not as much start and stop and motion. Everything is smooth and not fidgety, and it looks a little bit better and more as if they'd had more of a budget to work with for this. But as I said before, this one just didn't feel as charming as the older, quote, quote, jankier ones. There was something about those, perhaps it's the nostalgia feel that I have for them, but I still, as I watch the old ones to this day, there's more heart to it and more imagination, whereas this doesn't have as much imagination with it. You've got all the stories from who the Easter Bunny is, where did he come from, and he just happened to come upon this town as a little bunny, lost in the woods, and so the kids take him in, and he grows up, and he's trying to understand the ways of the world, and then he discovers the eggs, which then he starts to color them in order to hide them from Gadzooks the bear when he tries to go across to the town where everyone is bored and gray. So you get little backstories about where everything comes from, but it's so fast, and it's not the point really of it's a really nice, friendly look at Easter, and giving to others, making people happy, which is what the Easter Bunny is for. The Easter baskets and how they became to be, and the Easter bonnets and the Easter parades, and you see that kind of taking place in the town as they go from gray to colors, much to the dismay of Aunt Lily, who has some goofy moments of trying to stop everyone from coming up the hill. They build this train track to go up to make it easier for them to get to where they need to go with a lot of eggs. And I thought that something off was going to happen with Aunt Lily. Like she said she was going to stop them, make sure they never come back, make sure that's the end of the Easter Bunny. And I thought they were going to try to blow up the train, which would have been maybe more heightened and scary at that moment. But basically she just throws this gooey stuff on the track, and it makes the choo-choo train stop. But it didn't last long, so the train was able to get out of that situation and actually get to the town, stopping Aunt Lily's plans. And then, of course, you've got the ending where she gets a colored egg and she's like, "Oh, this is so lovely. You're so sweet. Everyone is so nice to me." And she, of course, turns her leaf over and starts anew. And, then she becomes the grand lady of the kingdom with her nephew as the king. The music in it is okay. You've got some cute songs, nothing really memorable. It's not like Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Even after watching it for the first time, it was like you could still hum these songs, where here they're kind of similar, but not, they're very subpar. And I didn't remember any of the songs. So that's why I was kind of a little disappointed with this version, because some of the Rankin and Bass, even if they are kind of jokey and cutesy, they still have some heart behind it, and some of the songs still resonate and are still very powerful and popular, but not in this episode. Overall, the Rankin and Bass charm is still there. It's silly at times, and you get a little chuckle here and there, and maybe a little bit like, "Aw, isn't that nice?" But overall, this is not as memorable as the Christmas classics. So if it's on TV, I'd say go ahead and watch it. You can find this on YouTube to watch. It's definitely good for kids. Adults, fine, but not really as good as some of the old original ones are. And so I think this one, you kind of get a pass on it, and not really. And there's a reason why it hasn't been as popular as our next film that we're going to be talking about, which is It's the Easter Beagle, Charlie Brown, which is from 1974. And almost everybody knows the Peanuts gang with Charlie Brown, Lucy, Linus, Peppermint Patty, Marcy. They all make an appearance in this special about Linus telling everybody that the Easter Beagle is going to come to town to give eggs to all the good little children everywhere. Very similar to his previous time with the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, where he sat in the pumpkin patch waiting for the Great Pumpkin to come and bring gifts to all the good little children. Here, we know the Easter Beagle, so obviously that's Snoopy going to be coming in at some point. There are some fun moments throughout the way. We have a subplot featuring Peppermint Patty and Marcy. Peppermint Patty wants to show Marcy how to color eggs for Easter Sunday and the meaning behind Easter and what fun it can be to create these colorful eggs to be put in baskets and hide them and then find them. And Marcy, as scatterbrained as she is, she starts to fry the eggs, bake the eggs, waffle the eggs, not hard-boiled them like you're supposed to with these eggs. So it makes Peppermint Patty do that famous "arg" scream that everyone knows about. And it makes for some very fun moments, especially because you're watching Marcy just like think she's doing everything just right, flipping the eggs while she's frying them or putting them into the oven to bake them, and she thinks nothing of it. And so, yeah, that makes for a very fun part of the film. Another side story plot line with this is Woodstock's bird's nest gets soaking wet and is ruined, so he needs a new place to live. So Snoopy goes off to find a birdhouse for him. The best part is you hear Woodstock in his house hammering away, sawing away, and Snoopy is there like sort of like, huh, what's going on? What is that? And then Vince Guaraldi has this wonderful jazz like bachelor pad sound that sort of like makes Snoopy go take a look inside, and he has all of these what would be of that time period in the 1970s wallpaper and a sunken living room, like something you'd think of as absurd looking at just a regular birdhouse from the outside. And so that's very funny to me. And then, of course, Snoopy breaks in, and we have the Charles Schultz logic of when the whole house breaks apart, there's no furniture or anything inside. And what I find wonderful about this film is it's so charming. There's many, many fun belly laugh moments, enchantment moments. This film was Emmy nominated for Most Outstanding Children's Special. It definitely is for children, but because it's Peanuts, there's always some underlying adult humor in there. Adults can really enjoy this and get behind the message of giving, loving, sharing, caring, and so on, and telling everybody about this tradition. And Linus is just trying to tell people, don't worry about the eggs. The Easter Beagle will come and give you all the eggs. This builds up to Sally and Linus waiting, and of course nothing is happening yet. No one's coming, and Sally is like, you've made a fool of me again. You did this to me in the pumpkin patch. Why do I listen to you? And so she's mad at everything. And then all of a sudden you start hearing this really joyous beat of music. It starts building, 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 and then suddenly you see in the distance Snoopy throwing eggs around for everybody, stopping off at all the kids, giving them one egg, making them all happy. And of course, he gets to Charlie Brown, and as with most Charlie Brown episodes, Charlie does not get anything because Snoopy has run out of eggs, so he just shrugs his shoulders and smiles, leaving Charlie Brown to once again have to move on with life. That even when something bad goes on, he still moves forward. It would have been nice to have the eggs, and of course, people always point out, it's like, well, if Snoopy hadn't thrown the eggs at the beginning, he would have had one left over for Charlie Brown, or Charlie Brown could go find one that was hidden that Snoopy threw around. And then Lucy finds out that the eggs that Snoopy was using were her eggs because she wanted to go out and hide them herself and find them herself. So it was all her. And she could be very proud and have an exciting time, and then is upset by the fact that her eggs were stolen and used for Snoopy. And after 10 weeks go by, she's still moping and upset about the whole thing. So she goes over to talk with him and starts to do her put up your dukes with Snoopy. One thing that makes this special kind of unique and interesting is there's a moment where they go to the shopping mall to get Peppermint Patty needs to get her eggs. Sally's looking for new shoes to wear because the ones she has are too old, but she wants something new. And once they step inside the mall, everything is decked out for Christmas. And it says things like, only 246 days till Christmas. Get now, buy now. showing, as many of the specials hint at, is the over-commercialization of the holidays. You definitely see that in the Christmas episode and also in the Halloween episode. And here it's really just right out in the open. And as we've noticed throughout the years, Christmas decorations come out earlier and earlier. Back when I was a kid, I remember them coming out in November. Now they come out in August. And so Charles Schulz was onto something with this when he put in the only 240 days until Christmas, get your presents now before it's too late. So it's gentle satire mixed in with the warm holiday feeling. Now, one of the biggest treats of this episode is Vince Guaraldi's score. It's simply superb. It's a wonderful jazzy and classical combination. You have classical music from Beethoven, and you have classical music from Bach, and then you also have Vince Guaraldi's jazz that, you know, you've heard the Lucian Linus dance music, and there's other more upbeat and kind of just warmth music happening throughout, and it really makes the episode shine. And recently it was discovered that in the vaults of Vince Guaraldi's music was all of the studio recordings of this, and they just released it as a new album last year. So if you can find that on Apple Music or wherever you get your music, I highly recommend listening to it. It's so much fun, especially if you know the music well and you know Vince Guaraldi's Peanuts music. And one of the nice thing is you can find it's the Easter Beagle Charlie Brown to watch on Apple TV. They have the exclusive rights to all the Peanuts episodes and holiday classics, so you can watch them there. So very easy to come by. You might be able to find them on YouTube or at least scenes from it. But I do highly recommend you seek this one out if you like Charlie Brown and the Peanuts gang, and you also like the upbeat Easter feel. This is this is such a delightful film, and you'd be hard pressed for it to not put a smile on your face after you watch it, or have some hair-raising moments at the end when Snoopy comes out as the Easter Beagle and the joyous feel that you get from it. Yeah, it's definitely something that I feel should be seen. It is one of the better Charlie Brown episodes. It's probably one of my favorites of the bunch because I love the little like stupid humor of Marcy mixing up the eggs and Woodstock's little bachelor pad and the 246 days till Christmas over commercialization bits. There's some really fun moments to be had in this film. So I do recommend that you take a look at it if you can. Well, and that's about it. So we have The Easter Bunny Is Coming to Town, a mediocre kids film, but still has its charm and place in history, especially because it's a Rankin and Bass special. So if you haven't seen it and you love Rankin and Bass, you should see it just so you can have that in your library and things you've seen. But I do recommend definitely getting your hands on It's Easter Beagle Charlie Brown, as it is one of the more successful and also underrated specials from the Charles Schulz library. So go out and take a look. Enjoy yourself for this holiday season. If you celebrate Easter, have a happy Easter. Be sure you have some candies, hide some eggs if you'd like to. That's always one thing I remember from being a kid that I kind of miss today, is that old fun feeling of being able to go out and search for the eggs and waking up to the Easter basket from the Easter Bunny. Up next on Real Beans, we're going to have a special treat. Danielle Aubuchon is going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking about one of my favorite character actors and really underrated, Clifton Webb from the 1940s and 50s. We're going to be looking at two of his films that he's well known for. One is called Laura from 1944. It's a gorgeous black and white film noir. And then a hilarious comedy called Sitting Pretty. So be sure to check us out on our next episode, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd really appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps more film and coffee lovers find the show. You can listen to our previous episodes on your favorite podcast platform, and be sure you check out realbeans.com for show notes, pairing details, and much more. If you'd like to support Real Beans and help keep the show going, head over to realbeans.com/support. And hey, if you've got a coffee or film recommendation that you'd like to see, drop a message on Instagram at @real_beans. I'd love to hear your suggestions. And until next time, sip, watch, repeat.